live in interesting times. Today's stories. Ecuadorian relatives wait in Colombia for news on bodies found. Irish border ferry faces choppy Brexit waters. Thousands march in Madrid against the release of sexual abuse gang. Luxury sneakers market booming in fashion in New York City. A demonstration against U.S. immigration policy erupted at the U.S. consulate in Montreal. Philippine ambassador to Canada says less than 3% of annual remittance come from overseas Filipino workers in Canada. Plus, entertainment this week, the Tulip Festival in Ottawa, and EBC takes us to the Pacific Rim Basketball Classic. This is Eagle News Canada, bringing you stories from around the globe. I am Lou Aquino. Relatives of the slain Ecuadorian press team wait in Colombia as authorities begin the process of identifying recently recovered bodies they believe belong to the three men who were kidnapped and assassinated by a group of ex-FARC dissidents.
Yo no puedo tranquilizarme con nada. Necesito saber qué es lo que está ocurriendo, si son los cuerpos de nuestros familiares, si es el cuerpo de mi padre. Así que mucha ansiedad de momento.
Colombian forensics advanced in the identification of bodies of the three Ecuadorians of the press team of the newspaper El Comercio de Quito, murdered in captivity by dissidents of the FARC guerrillas.
Por la parte familiar de cerrar un circo, de tener un cierre en cuanto a un velorio, en cuanto a un entierro probablemente. Y vivir el luto que de hecho ha sido prolongado, pero que tenemos la esperanza de que termine muy pronto.
Ecuadorian families and judicial authorities arrived in Cali to accompany the process of identification and eventual repatriation. On Thursday, the Colombian president, Juan Manuel Santos, reported the appearance of the bodies. According to the official sources, the corpses found by police dogs were buried in such a way that they were never found, and even their assassins secured the area with mines.
No nos han dicho nada. Estamos dando solamente las pruebas en cuanto, por ejemplo, si tenían una cicatriz, ese tipo de cosas. Nada más.
As Britain marks the second anniversary of its Brexit referendum on Saturday, June 23, the border between Northern Ireland and Irish Republic remains a point of contention in negotiations with the EU. The scenic Carlingford Ferry Company is sailing towards its first anniversary on the water, but celebration of a year's steady growth threatens to be overshadowed by another anniversary, that of Britain's Brexit referendum. That's because the ferry crosses between the Irish Republic and the Northern Ireland.
They have spent 10 million developing this because they had to develop landing facilities to the other side, and well, we don't know what's going to happen, whether there will be customs here and customs the other side, or will there be free movement of people.
The scenic ferry has reduced a 90-minute car journey to a quarter-of-an-hour cruise. But the ferry crosses the border between the Irish Republic, which is in the EU, and Britain's Northern Ireland. When the UK leaves the EU, trade rules are expected to become very different on each side of the border, but locals are still waiting to find out how this would be enforced.
So for the police just and all, it would be stupid really, but people can get across, but you can get across small boats as well, so it's just not just this here, but the Brexit, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen, but hopefully the island will stay open and we'll all free trade all around. I think that's the best way forward.
There is even disagreement about where the border actually is. The Republic argues it should be drawn straight down the middle of the loch, but this would cut through the shipping lane of one of Northern Ireland's busiest ports. Meanwhile, commuters who live and work on opposite sides of the border could face passport checks on every ferry crossing.
We are used over the last 20 years to the freedom of movement and no restrictions whatsoever, freedom of goods, freedom of services. This whole mess is going to do untold damage to this region.
Locals can only wait for the final result of Brexit negotiations. Until then, the Carlingford ferry will battle on through the choppy Brexit waters. Protesters hit the streets across Spain for the second day running after 5 men sentenced to 9 years in prison for sexually abusing a young woman at Pamplona's bull running festival were released on bail. The men, who called themselves the Pack in a WhatsApp messaging group, had been accused of raping a woman, then 18, on July 7, 2016 at the start of the week-long San Fermin festival, which draws tens of thousands of visitors. All 5, aged between 27 and 29, were convicted of sexual abuse in April, but were acquitted of the more serious crime of sexual assault, which includes rape, as the court did not consider the victim to have been subjected to intimidation or violence. The men appealed their jail terms, and a Pamplona court on Thursday ordered the 5 to be released on bail of €6,000 or $7,000 pending the outcome of the appeal. Thousands of people demonstrated outside the Justice Ministry in central Madrid on Friday evening, shortly after the 5 men left jail after spending nearly 2 years in custody.
Bueno, la justicia patriarcal no es solamente en España, es en todas partes. Simplemente no se tiene en cuenta a las mujeres como lo que son el 50% de la población, igual que los hombres. Entonces, cuando la justicia se hace por los hombres, para los hombres, y nos excluye de la toma de decisiones, tanto en el poder legislativo, ejecutivo como judicial, o esas decisiones no se toman desde una óptica feminista, suceden cosas como esta.
Other protests were held in the southern city of Seville, the hometown of the 5 men. Pamplona, where the crowd held a large banner that read, "No is no, justice," outside the city hall, Granada, and elsewhere. Thousands of people had already protested in Pamplona, Bilbao, Barcelona, and other cities on Thursday after the court issued its ruling. Women's groups took to social media to call the protest with slogan, "If the pack hits the streets, we will as well." Marches after the verdict in April brought tens of thousands of protesters out onto the streets.
Al final lo que puedo aportar es ese apoyo, principalmente la voz es de ellas, la lucha es de ellas y nosotros tenemos que hacer ver que las acompañamos simplemente como fuerza de apoyo. Al final la lucha la conseguirán y los resultados serán de ellas. Pero hay que visibilizar que nosotros tenemos que perder nuestros privilegios y que no nos tiene que molestar. Entonces hay que hacérselo ver al resto de hombres, claro.
In its decision on Friday, the Navarre's court said the 5 had been allowed out on bail because the social pressure on them made it practically unthinkable they would risk re-offending. The men will remain under judicial monitoring. They have had their passports withdrawn and must report to court 3 times a week. They are also banned from traveling to Madrid, where the victim lives. One of the men is a policeman with the Guardia Civil who is currently suspended, and another was once in the army. Several are ultras or hardcore fans of FC Sevilla. The fact that the men videoed the attack on their smartphones and bragged about it within their WhatsApp group added to the outrage over the case. The mayor of Pamplona, Joseba Asiron, said Friday his office would appeal the decision to release them, saying there was a growing distance between society itself and certain decisions taken by the courts. An online petition calling for the 5 to be kept behind bars had garnered 657,000 names by Friday night. New Socialist Justice Minister Dolores Delgado has not commented on the court decision, speaking only of a need to change mentalities. The first step announced by the government of Pedro Sanchez, who took office earlier this month at the head of cabinet that includes 11 women, was to train magistrates in awareness about violence against women. 41-year-old Noelia Garcia said she did not trust that the situation would change with a new government dominated by women. Up next, luxury sneakers market booming in fashion-conscious New York City. A demonstration against U.S. immigration policy erupted at the U.S. consulate in Montreal. 1 million Filipinos living in Canada, but remittances have been declining. Eagle News Canada will return in a moment. watching Eagle News Canada. New York is one of the capitals of a flourishing high-end sneaker culture. Though the trade in trainers is hardly new, luxury sneakers, often limited edition collaborations between the big names in sportswear and fashion labels, rappers, or famous athletes, have become coveted accessory for everyone from tween boys to middle-aged men. LHYN ESPIRITU with the details.
Christian, age 10, has 20 pairs of high-end sneakers in his closet at his home in the suburbs of New York. Maxence, who just turned 14, asked his parents for an $800 pair of Adidas shoes for his birthday. He did not get them. The world is also one in which luxury sneakers, often limited edition collaborations between the big names in sportswear and fashion labels, rappers, or famous athletes, have become more coveted accessory for everyone from tween boys to middle-aged men. Some pairs fetch tens of thousands of dollars. The super rare Derek Jeter Air Jordan 11, named for the New York Yankees superstar, were going for about $50,000 in recent weeks. Only 5 pairs were released. Such shoes are bought second or third hand, mainly on the internet, but also in chic boutiques or pop-up stores, packaged in plastic wrap to protect them. New York is one of the capitals of this flourishing high-end sneaker culture, though the trade in trainers is hardly new. It began in the 1990s when Nike made it big with the first Air Jordans, made for the legendary basketball star Michael Jordan. Those shoes quickly became must-have collector's item. Then in the 2000s, the market grew as the internet boomed, especially on auction sites like eBay. Today, visited by celebrities, social media influencers, and the mainstream influence of rap culture, the sneaker business has gone global. It's particularly big in the United States, Europe, and Asia. Since 2016, it even has its own stock exchange, the StockX website. Matt Powell, a sports industry analyst for the NPD Group, says the actual size of the luxury sneaker market is hard to estimate, but one thing is clear: that market has had nice growth. Even if it's centered on a few key industry players, the market is fed by a mass of small-time vendors, many of them sneaker addicts themselves, looking for a quick way to make extra cash. But for John McPheeters, the president and co-founder of Stadium Goods, mainly a web business, but which opened what has become one of New York's most popular sneaker stores in Soho in late 2015, these estimates are way too low. Stadium Goods sold more than $100 million in shoes last year, and sales have at least doubled this year in what he says is a healthier market now that certificates of authenticity have become the norm.
One side is the consumer side, where you come, you can see the product, you can try it on, you can get a sense of the stories and the lineage behind a lot of these styles and silhouettes that you see here. On the Canal Street side, that's our consignment center where people can come and drop their product off. We authenticate the product, we pay out sellers when items sell.
The future plans of McPheeters and Stadium Goods are a good indication of the luxury sneaker market's potential and worldwide appeal.
A lot of people don't understand that even though we're a shoe store, we are a marketplace. So every one of these shoes is owned by a seller.
While internet sales account for 90% of the firm's total for now, they plan to open several more actual stores in the U.S. and abroad. China is its largest market outside the U.S., followed by Britain and Canada.
If I feel I need to keep them, like you say, you only have 2 feet, so at some point you don't want to spend all your money on sneakers all the time, unless you really have a fetish for it. So sometimes, if I don't feel like having them, I just go get my money back for it, pretty much, sometimes. But I can put my sneaker up there for any price that I want and just let it sit there until it gets dead stock and somebody takes it at the end of the day. So it's just up to you on how you feel or what you're trying to do with it, trying to get out of it.
Thanks to a partnership with Britain-based online fashion platform Farfetch, Stadium Goods is hoping to soon break into the Russian market. 29-year-old Matt Troisi is a regular customer at Stadium Goods. He owns about 300 pairs of sneakers and an experienced buyer and seller online. He is convinced that market is huge and about to explode. Troisi says he earns $25,000 to $35,000 a year in the sneaker trade, about half of what he makes as a manager for the Tao Restaurant Group, where he rubs shoulders with celebrities who help him get access to limited edition treasures. McFeeder says one key to the future growth of the luxury kicks business will be to attract more women. For Eagle News, I am LHYN ESPIRITU, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Lynn. Protesters hold a demonstration outside the U.S. consulate in Montreal against U.S. immigration policy. Kara Kabusa with the details.
Protesters are enraged that children are separated from their parents because they have entered the United States in an illegal way in order to escape a sometimes very violent country.
Séparer des petits-enfants de leurs parents, des pauvres gens qui prennent leur vie en main pour essayer d'échapper à une société qui est très violente dans leur propre pays, qui ne demande que d'être reçus, pouvoir vivre en paix avec d'autres, puis on les refuse. Je trouve ça aberrant. Et je ne peux pas rester tranquille dans mon salon à ne rien dire.
C'est réuni au consulat américain parce que, bon, tout qu'est-ce qui s'est passé avec les photos qu'on a vues des enfants détenus dans des cages parce qu'ils ont passé une frontière de manière irrégulière. Mais en fait, ce qu'on veut dire, c'est qu'au Canada aussi, on détient des enfants quand ils traversent de façon irrégulière.
Protesters hope to put pressure on the U.S. government policies, as well as raise awareness on the inhumane way children are being detained.
Peut-être qu'aujourd'hui, on ne changera pas les politiques de Trump, on s'entend, mais on va faire pression, on va faire de la sensibilisation, puis on va comprendre que nous aussi, on est liés à ces enjeux-là, puis qu'il ne faut pas se désolidariser.
Ces gens-là soient traités de cette façon et que ces enfants soient séparés de leurs parents, c'est inadmissible. On est en train de leur faire des traumatismes incroyables. Ça me dépasse.
For Eagle News, I am Kara Kabusao, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Kara. According to official sources, there are about 1 million Filipinos living in Canada, but despite their numbers, remittances have been declining. Thomas I. Likeness with more.
The Philippine ambassador to Canada says although 10% of all OFWs live in this country, they account for less than 3% of the annual remittances to the Philippines. Her Excellency Petronila Garcia told a meet-and-greet of Philippine community organizations in Edmonton that Canada has been a favored destination for immigrants.
We are now among the top sources of immigrants. In fact, up to 2016, we were the top source of immigrants, and we have retained up to the top 3 sources of immigrants.
Ambassador Garcia says there are about 1 million Filipinos living in Canada, but despite their numbers, remittances have been declining.
We attribute this to the fact that when Filipinos come to Canada, they come as immigrants and they bring their families. So eventually there's nobody to send money home to.
Garcia adds Alberta has the fastest growing Filipino community in Canada. She met with Alberta Deputy Premier Sarah Hoffman and suggested the province should open a trade office in Manila.
The reason for this is that Manila is, of course, now one of the fastest growing economies in Asia, and we really are now have a very welcoming investment environment.
Garcia adds that in her meeting with Hoffman, she addressed one other issue critical to immigrants.
There was a meeting of the Filipino leaders earlier this month, and they talked about the challenges faced by the Philippine immigrants here in Canada, primarily the matter of credentials recognition. And she shared with us that this is not unique to the Philippines, the Philippine diaspora here. The matter of credentials recognition is always a challenge for immigrants, but the government is working towards ways to address this and are willing to work with us, and we express our willingness to begin a conversation about this.
Garcia thanked the Alberta government for declaring every June Philippine Heritage Month. The ambassador was in Edmonton to attend a post-anniversary celebration of the 120th year of Philippine independence. In Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News, I'm 1 with 25.
Coming up, entertainment this week. Tulip Festival in Ottawa, and EBC takes us to the Pacific Rim Basketball Classic. Eagle News Canada will return shortly. Eaglenews Canada. I'm Lou Aquino. Here's EBC's Kathleen CRUZ with entertainment this week. Kathleen?
Hi everyone, Kathleen CRUZ here for entertainment news. Golden popcorn statuettes are out, and here are the highlights from the 2018 MTV Movie and TV Awards.
Marvel's breakthrough superhero film Black Panther topped the MTV Awards night with 4 awards, including the Best Movie against top-notch movies like Avengers: Infinity Wars, Wonder Woman, Girls Trip, and It. Black Panther himself, Chadwick Boseman, won the Best Hero Award. And upon receiving the award, he promptly gave it to James Shaw Jr., the man who bravely fought a mass shooter at Antioch, Tennessee in April. Shaw was credited for saving many lives and hailed as hero by the survivors. Boseman was also awarded the Best Actor in a Movie award, while his villain in the movie, Michael B. Jordan, grabbed the Best Villain award. Netflix hit series Stranger Things was named as Show of the Year, against 13 Reasons Why, Game of Thrones, Crown-ish, and Riverdale. Its main star, Millie Bobby Brown, took the Best Actor in a Show. However, Millie was a no-show in the awards night because of a knee injury, but she still made a speech video to her fans and bullies. She said that bullies have no space in this world and no one should tolerate them. Comedian Tiffany Haddish hosted the awards night and took home the Best Comedic Performance for Girls Trip, while Madeline Pesh, or also known as Cheryl Blossom of the TV hit series Riverdale, won the Scene Stealer. Gal Gadot was also awarded for Best Fight Scene for the movie Wonder Woman.
Catch me again next week for more entertainment news. I am Kathleen CRUZ for Eagle News Canada, and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Kathleen. Now let's hear it from our correspondent on the eastern side of Canada, reporting from the Ottawa Tulip Festival. Here's Andrew Lajoie.
Bienvenue, Canada! Welcome to the annual Canadian Tulip Festival happening here at the Commissioners Park in Ottawa. This is the largest tulip festival in the world and attracts thousands of visitors each year. The festival is celebrate the theme of the World of Tulip. We will take a closer look at the official color of the tulip, this year the Darwin Yellow Tulip.
Experience hundreds of thousands of bright tulips planted around Ottawa in front of the Parliament Hill, at the Major Hills Park, Confederation Park in Jacques-Cartier, and the Commissioners Park. And here at the Commissioners Park, experience the kilometer-long tulip flower bed and learn about the fascinating history of the festival. The Canadian Tulip Festival is a celebration of friendship and peace. Tulip bulbs are a gift from the Netherlands to Canada from the Second World War. Canada helped the role of the liberation of the Netherlands and provided hospitality to the Royal Dutch family in Ottawa during the war. This makes the tulip the official flower of Ottawa, Canada. Reporting from Ottawa, this is André Lajoie, Canada Bureau. I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Andre. Team Canada defeats Team China at the Pacific Rim Basketball Classic. Here's Anthony Sevilla with the report.
Chris Boucher and RJ Barrett led the way for Canada to a 97-62 win over China here at Rogers Arena in Vancouver, Canada. Despite playing his first game with the senior national team, RJ Barrett was far the best player in the first half. The high school Gatorade National Player of the Year and incoming Duke freshman finished the game with 16 points, 2 assists, and 2 steals. Chris Boucher was the player of the game for Canada. He finished the game with 17 points, along with 5 blocks.
Team Canada head coach Jay Triano gave the nod to Barrett to start in his first appearance for the senior men's national team. Barrett was aggressive on the offensive end right from the start of tip-off. Despite his young age, he showed no signs of inexperience and was not afraid to make contact in the paint on his driving lane to the basket, and was that offensive force that Team Canada was missing. Barrett contributed to 12 points, 2 assists, and 2 steals in just 18 minutes in the first half. Coach Triano described how much Barrett helped Team Canada in his first appearance with the senior national team.
I thought he was great. I thought he was needed. I thought he, defensively, there's a few things he's got to get a little bit better at as far as his awareness off the basketball. But he's electric when he's got the basketball. He's got a great feel for the game. He knows how to get to the basket. He can make shots. He didn't really make a lot of shots tonight.
Barrett described how playing alongside the NBA guys on the roster helped him in his first game for the senior national program.
Very helpful. They're always talking to me on the court. If you look at it, everyone's always talking to me, trying to give me, positive feedback, and it's helping. It's a different experience, but it's a lot of fun. Everybody got to do their thing. Everybody played well, so that kind of game was really fun.
Boucher was named the game MVP for Canada. He had a game-high 5 blocks along with 17 points, mainly from the second half alone. Boucher's interior defense caused major problems offensively for China the entire game. Canada held China to only 62 points due to their team's excellent man-to-man defense led by Boucher, who was the anchor for Canada inside the paint. His interior defense forced China to be more hesitant to play inside, forcing them to make bad shots mainly from long distance. Boucher found out earlier that morning that Golden State Warriors waived him, but that did not stop him from being aggressive.
It's just making me put more effort, I was hurt coming back from injury, I had a lot of stuff that, I had to go through, so, just having the opportunity to play again, put all my energy in it and just, see what happens.
He also mentioned the influence that the Warriors All-Stars have taught him when it comes to work ethic, especially on the defensive end.
That definitely helps, especially having guys like Draymond Green where I feel like, I could do the same thing and, to be talking a lot, just tell them man's where to be, call it switch, screens, and I feel like just being around those guys like Kevin Durant, that, two-time MVP, that's definitely, helping me out. I feel like, I can go to the gym and get better because these guys do it. So I feel like I have to do it too if I want to get to that level.
Canada used the short window to integrate their NBA players joining the squad to prepare for their upcoming FIBA World Cup qualifying matches this summer. With the new FIBA qualifying format, Canada has had to rely heavily on their players from the NBA G League and from overseas. With the addition of the players from the NBA, Canada's roster was strengthened greatly, which was on full display in their 97-62 win over China. China's team doesn't face the same problems as Canada with their chemistry. China's core of young talent had been intact throughout this year, competing in various tournaments in Asia, but were without their best players in LHYN and Zhu Qi, who normally carry the load offensively for China. Arguably at the peak of the golden age for Canada basketball, Canada currently features 15 players on NBA rosters, the most above any other country besides the United States. However, not everyone has fully committed to the national team program, so this Canadian squad will have to rely on this current group to lead Canada in order to qualify for the FIBA World Cup and hopefully the 2020 Olympics, where Canada has not participated in 20 years.
China will continue to prepare as they play and host the 2019 FIBA World Cup starting on August 31st, 2018. Canada will play another exhibition against China before they head east for their 2 FIBA World Cup qualifiers against the Dominican Republic and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Reporting from Rogers Arena in Vancouver, Canada, I'm Anthony Sevilla, and I'm always one with 25.
Thank you, Anthony. That is this week's Eagle News Canada. Join us next week for stories that matter to you. Visit our website at Eaglenews.PH and EagleNewsLive.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. Thank you for watching. I am Lou Aquino. I'm 1 with 25.